and record. And here we go. Well, hello and welcome to today's episode of the Power of Your Mind podcast. You are listening to episode number 176, and I'm Victoria Gallagher, the Law of Attraction hypnotist and #1 best-selling author of Practical Law of Attraction. Align yourself with the manifesting conditions and successfully attract your desires. And I'm also the founder of HipTalk.com and HypnoCloud apps, which gives you access to over 500 hypnosis recordings right in the palm of your hand. So be sure to download that app from the app stores today. And today I have a very special guest with me, Mike Duffy. Mike Duffy is a philanthropist and an author of 5 books on happiness, including the Happiness Book, A Positive Guide to Happiness, the Happiness Book for Men, the Happiness Book for Kids, volumes 1 and 2. And he also interviewed the top leaders, athletes, rock stars, CEOs, and celebrities in the world on happiness, work-life balance, resilience, and success for his books. He was an MC at Woodstock 94. He gave a TEDx talk at TEDx Berkeley. He loves to speak about how you can gain greater happiness and joy in your precious life. Mike Duffy is the CEO of Happiness Wealth Management in San Carlos, California, and he has over 27 years experience in the finance field. He was a SVP at Merrill Lynch. He's worked with some of the wealthiest people in Silicon Valley. Mike also speaks about crucial fundamental money management techniques and philanthropic giving. His audience includes corporations, organizations, and universities, including Stanford University, where he guest lectures and has a scholarship award. And Mike started the Happiness Hall of Fame to recognize, encourage, and celebrate people and organizations that make other people happy. Members of the Happiness Hall of Fame include Muhammad Ali, Dolly Parton, Jerry Rice, Serena Williams, the Golden State Warriors, the San Francisco Giants, the Wounded Warrior Project, and the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And Mike also founded the Happiness Hall of Fame Homeless Outreach, which provides money, food, counseling, and hope to the hopeless. And the Happiness Hall of Fame website is Happiness Hall of Fame. So welcome to the show, Mike.
Victoria, I am so happy to be here. We are going to have fun. We're going to have a few laughs. There's going to be a lot of energy in today's program, and I want everybody to stay at the end. Because if you can hear the sound of my voice, I know that you want to have techniques and ways to get happier. So let's have fun.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Mike. This is such a privilege to be with you and to have you on the show. Clearly you are the expert in all things happiness. And so it's just an honor to be with you. And I'm so happy and that we're going to be even happier that you're going to tell us some techniques and strategies on, especially in today's world. I mean, you have to admit there's a lot of unhappiness going around. And so I think it's really, really crucial, especially today, that we change our focus and, learn how to make ourselves happier. So thank you so much for doing this. I mean, it's you've committed your life's work, your life to this, to making other people happy. And that's got to make you happy.
Well, Victoria, that's the purpose of my life. You see, 1,000 years ago, St. Augustine said that it is in giving that we receive. So let me ask you a question. I'm sure over your life, you've received wonderful presents and you felt nice. You felt a little bit happy. But how have you felt when you've given really good presents to the people that you love? probably 10 times happier. So that's what I'm here for. I'm here to encourage people to give more. I also want to make people aware to take the limits off their life, that life doesn't have to happen to them, that they can control where they want to go in life. You see, we were all born with desires of our heart. And a lot of us are too afraid to let those desires out because we don't want to be ridiculed, or we think it's too hard, or we think it's impossible. But it's quite the contrary. You see, you will get joy as you make progress in your purpose. That's when happiness shows up. So today I'm going to talk about how you can take the limits off your life and be happy on a day-to-day basis sustainably.
I love it. Take the limits off your life and be happy sustainably. Because if you can only be happy temporarily, then what is really the purpose? I mean, so we want to be able to sustain that and remove the limits. So before we get into that, like, just tell us a little bit about your background on how this came about for you. Like, was there a time in your life when you weren't feeling so happy, or did you come out of the womb happy and born to teach people how to be happy?
I came out of the womb dancing and singing with a top hat and a cane. That's just who I am. That's my composition. It's my constitution. However, like everybody, we all have trials and tribulations and major setbacks. So when I was 17, my favorite person in the world passed away of cancer in 3 months, my mom. She was my biggest fan. And for the first time in my life, I felt depressed, a depression I couldn't get out of, a depression that changed my life for the better. So both my parents had a 6th grade education, right? They were immigrants from Ireland. So there was no money for therapy. That was completely out of the case. So I said, okay, how can I climb out of the muck and mire? I said, I'll get a degree in psychology. So that's what I did. And, back then, there was no positive psychology. You just learned, as my friend, Dr. Fred Luskin, the author of Forgive for Good, says, in psychology, you became the masters of misery. You knew everything what was wrong with the human psyche, but no way to fix it, right? So I had to then, outside of psychology, I had to read everything, including the ancient Greeks, the Stoics, people like Tony Robbins, whatever I could get my hands on, the latest scientific research. I'm a science-based guy. I want facts, not opinions. How can somebody change their life and come up with a way and a system to keep happiness flowing? So that's been my eternal quest. It always will be. And now, after 37 years, because I was 17 when this happened to me, without a doubt, I can help others.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you went through this depression, and you said that it changed your life, but it changed your life actually for the better.
Yes.
Can you explain a little bit on how that horrible moment, that was a depressing moment. And I mean, anytime somebody passes, it is a depressing situation. And we're not necessarily equipped with the resources to get through that. And so how did you tap into the resources that allowed you to take that situation and make it change you for the better?
Well, for those of you that are listening right now that happen to be going through terrible things, whether it's the loss of a job or a loss of a loved one, understand this. You are going to come out of this stronger, right? Keep a positive attitude. What I would recommend is to listen to positive people like Victoria Gallagher's podcast, other people podcast, Deepak Chopra, the work of Tony Robbins, or my favorite, Dr. Wayne Dyer, who had a profound effect on my life. And all 3 of those people are in the Happiness Hall of Fame, by the way. So, Dr. Wayne Dyer said, change your thoughts, change your life. No truer words were spoken. You see, our brains are computers. Whatever we program it with, that is what is going to be spit out. So if you are programming it with sad songs, By the way, science says that the two happiest forms of music are 50s music. So go on a Spotify or Sirius XM, they have a 50s channel. Whenever, like, for example, yesterday, I was speaking at a school and I have systems in place now. So what I do when I go to speak, I turn on 50s music on my car on the way there. Now it's very corny music, it's very simple, but it gets your foot tapping. It gets your mind in the right place. There's a method to the madness, right? So change the input right now. And the other thing that you can do, Benjamin Franklin said that 1% of people are successful because only 1% of people write down their goals. So in this time of sadness, in this time of desperation, take out a piece of paper, or even better, take out your phone and go to the Notes app or an app similar to that and write down the goals that you want for the rest of this year. And, I'm not talking about tiny goals. I'm talking about big, hairy goals. I remember being in my starter house about 10 years ago. And I took out my phone, my iPhone, wrote down on the Notes app. And I was afraid to put down my real goals because I didn't want to fail. But understand that it's just you and your goals. You're not putting this on the website or whatever like that, right? And I said, I'm going to go for it. And I wrote down, have the house of my dream in the town of my dream, which I now live in. Have these kind of financial resources, which I've exceeded, right? So all of the things that I wanted all came true. And I totally believe it's a result of having the courage to write down the goals that you want.
I 100% agree with that. And, and it's true. I think a lot of people are afraid they'll write down the tiny goals. They'll write down what they think that they can accomplish.
Yes.
Or that they know how to accomplish.
Yes.
And the key is that you have to, and if you already know how to accomplish it, then it's not even really a goal.
Yeah.
So how do you get somebody to, how do you get somebody to believe in themselves enough to write down those secret, goals that are like deeper into the resources of their heart, what they really want? Like, how do you even get somebody in touch with that? Because isn't it true? I mean, I think a lot of people, they have forgotten to dream. They've forgotten about what they really, really want. They don't even know what they want because they've told themselves, somehow they've convinced themselves to think really small. So why is that? And how do you get somebody to dream big, to think big, to write down the big goals?
That's the easy part. So I'm known for 3 letters. P plus P equals H. So purpose plus progress equals happiness. So 10 years ago, I wrote down, and all of us have multiple purposes, right? Now, for example, I'm happily married. I have 2 wonderful kids. I have my own business, my own wealth management business. So what I did was I wrote down, be a great husband to my wife. And then under that, I wrote, be a great father to my kids, be a great wealth manager, right? And then on the right side of the page, under progress, I wrote, have date night every Saturday night. I learned a long time ago from wiser people than myself that it's cheaper to hire a babysitter than it is a divorce attorney. Okay?
You know what? That makes so much sense. That's like, because people are penny wise, pound foolish.
Yes.
And that is absolutely true. Those are the investments you absolutely have to make into your marriage. Otherwise, you're going to end up in the divorce court.
Yeah. And see, as a wealth manager, I'll be celebrating 30 years in November. Divorce is devastating to your finances. Absolutely devastating. So you want to avoid that at all costs. And by the way, the grass is not greener most of the time. Mm-hmm. So plus she's my soulmate. So I knew, sometimes you're just plain lucky to find somebody who is your soulmate. And that happened to me. So I said, I'm never going to let this come asunder. I only want to go deeper in our relationship. So every Saturday night, I had a stable of babysitters. If somebody, bowed out 30 minutes before, I had a grandma down the street who was always my backup, right? And now here's the thing. I would say to my wife, where do you want to go to dinner? Where do you, which movie do you want to see? When you put your spouse or your partner first, the law of reciprocity states that they understand the gift and they will return the favor. If you're with the right person, there's some jerks out there, right? But for the average normal person, they'll understand what you're trying to do. And they'll feel that you gave them something, they want to return it. So in a love relationship, you always want to be giving, right? Always make the person feel special. Why would they want to leave, right? Now, under Be a Great Father to My Kids, I wrote, I'm going to coach every sport that they will play, which I did. So now, what does that mean? Does that mean that I really all of a sudden fell in love with soccer? No, I hate soccer, right? I'm a New York Jets fan. And especially first grade soccer. If you've ever watched one of these monstrosities of a game, it's a massive little humans following a ball. There's no strategy. They do not listen to the coach. Nobody stays behind. It's hysterical, but it's very frustrating to coach, right? So, but the thing is, after
what was that movie with Will Ferrell?
Oh, yes. Was it Ladybugs with Rodney Dangerfield?
Oh, okay.
Fantastic.
There was a different movie I was thinking of. It was with Will Ferrell, and his father was, I'm just being really bad with names. His father was a big football coach guy in real life. And Ditka, Mike
Ditka. Yeah, Coach Ditka, he's in the hall too.
Yep. Anyway, yeah. Kicking and Screaming. That was the name of the movie, Kicking and Screaming. Okay. Anyway, that reminded me of that when you were talking about the soccer, because you have to see that movie.
Yeah, it's hysterical. And it's very cute. And I love wholesome. I love everything wholesome. With age comes wisdom. And those are the most memorable times, the laughter. When you look back at your life, and I encourage people to create more moments like this, the most wonderful times in your life is not the time where you got an increase of 5% pay. It's when you are around the people that you love and you are laughing. So I have these wonderful, precious memories of being at a malt shop with the kids, and they're all smiling, after a soccer game, whether they won or lost. So have more memories, make and create those special times.
I love it. That makes so much sense, because so many people are like, they think that they're going for the money goal, right? Everybody wants to make more money, but the only reason why they want to make more money is because money is a resource to those moments. It's, but if you really think about creating the moments now, the moments are going to make you happy. It's those moments that make us happy. It's those giving. You said that giving is the key to happiness. So what is it that a person can do if they want to be, they want to be more giving, but they don't really know how to give? Like, they're so many people are focused on the other way around. They're focused on, what can I get? What can I get this person? How can I get that person to love me? How can I get that person to pay me more? How can I get more? And, and like you said, it's the other way around. So how can a person start to reverse their thinking so that they're thinking about ways to, like, how can I give more?
Well, that's a fantastic question, because I left Merrill Lynch after 18 years. I had a corner office, top producer in Menlo Park, home of Facebook. And I made the jump 3.5 years ago to a practice where we would focus on giving. So the name of my practice is Happiness Wealth Management. And the first thing that I do when I sit down with a new client is I say, what makes you happy? And how can we get more of that? Now, during a financial plan, we'll bring up giving. And the thing is, you want to give when you're alive. You don't want to give when you're dead. It doesn't matter. You want to see, like, let's say your child bought their starter home, right? And they need $25,000 to update the kitchen, which has plastic cabinets. Why not gift that to your child while they're alive and they need the money, right? So that you can see the absolute joy when they're entertaining and they're showing, their friends, they're touching the cabinets. These are wonderful things, right? So change your mind on that. The other thing is, there are ways through our tax laws, like, for example, there's something called a donor advised fund, and you don't have to be wealthy to open up a donor advised fund. And a donor advised fund, let's say you have a stock that is appreciated, and let's say there's a gain of $10,000 on it. Instead of selling that stock, paying the tax on that stock, and then with what you have left over, giving it, you put that stock into a donor advised fund where it's sold. You get a tax write-off, and you still have the $10,000. It doesn't go to the government. And then you can write a check to your church. You can write a check to your school, your alumni foundation, and you have almost twice as much to give. So that's what I focus on, right? To really open up the gifting strings for individuals and corporations.
That is a great idea. And so many people would not even be aware of that. You and I've had the benefit of, I was also in the financial consultant arena. That's what I did before I started doing all this. So I understand that. And so that's a really great way to really kill two birds with one stone, to give to somebody else, which makes you happy, but also escape having to pay the taxes on that.
Yeah, you've got more to give, and it's just very simple. People just don't know what they don't know. The other thing, I'm 54. I was born the weekend of the Summer of Love, by the way, Memorial Day weekend, 1967. I find that because I have an affinity towards that type of music and towards that type of era. And Bob Dylan was huge back then. And I remember being in Queens. I was born in Brooklyn, raised in Queens. I lived on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. And then eventually I made my escape to California in 95. But I remember being a kid and my mom asking a neighbor, "Hey, where'd Frankie go?" And she said, "Oh, he moved to California. He's trying to find himself." And Bob Dylan said that life is not about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. Who is it that you want to be? What is it that you want to do? You have the power to change. You are not stuck at this dead-end job. You can be whoever you want to be. Will you have to make sacrifices? Sure. Will it be scary? Absolutely. But if you look at life like a roller coaster ride, imagine how lame a roller coaster would be if it never went up and down. That's why people pay the big bucks to get into the park, to wait in line, to feel the thrill of the ups and downs. Understand that life is filled with ups and downs. But if at least you have a North Star, a direction saying, this is what I want to be, I will do anything to get there, then it's thrilling when you really get to that end point, which you can get to.
Absolutely. And it's so important also to realize exactly what you're saying, that life is a roller coaster. You're not, if you realize that you're not always going to stay at the top of the roller coaster, that you do have to go down, you do have to experience the whole thing, the downs, the ups, the turns. Life is always shifting, and you have to be able to adapt and be willing to shift with those changes and adapt. So that's an amazing, so what are some steps a person could take right now to start to get on the journey toward being happier?
First of all of us have this baggage from the past. But Dr. Wayne Dyer used to say, the past is ash. You can't go back there. There's nothing behind you, right? So I talk about resiliency. Now, in resiliency, You can say, this terrible thing happened to me. I am contaminated. I am permanently damaged. Or you can flip it upside down. And you can say that terrible thing happened to me. It happened for me. Okay. And as a result that it happened for me, I have learned powerful lessons and I have become stronger as a result of it. With this strength, I am going to go forward and I am going to chart a new path. I am going to be courageous. I am going to live in the arena and not the cheap seats. I am going to ignore the haters. You know, one of the greatest couple of hours of my life I spent with Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali was named the sportsman of the century. Not only was he an amazing athlete, but what he did for social justice was incredible. For someone to come from the mean streets of Louisville, Kentucky, and to rise to become one of the most famous people of all time was amazing. He did it through sheer will and strength. Can you imagine, you know, Muhammad Ali going out into these outrageously sized arenas where with half the world watching, and because half the world was against him, by the way. And when he would go into these arenas, half the people were raining down booze on him. Can you imagine in the middle of the fight, he stopped it and say, hey, you're hurting my feelings. You know, I put a lot of work into this. No, he went about his business and he finished the job, whether he won or he lost. He finished the job and he ignored the haters. Failure is a part of victory. Understand that there's a good chance that you could fail. So what? You're going to have great learning skills as a result.
Absolutely. Yes. Failure is necessary in order for us to succeed and to be happy and to learn from. I mean, life is a journey. It's a growth process. So that's a great story. I love it. So what would you say is like the most important skill that we have, that we can acquire to become more happy?
Number one, you have to choose to be happy. It's a choice. Someone can't hand you a happiness card and it's worth $25 and now you got $25 worth of happiness. You have to choose to be happy on a moment by moment basis. Now, what does that mean? There are negative things, negative thoughts that come at us on a second by second basis. You can't stop those thoughts, but you can ignore those thoughts. So people always ask me, but I read such bad stuff. First of all, stop watching the news. Turn that off. You don't need to know that 6 people died in an apartment fire last night. Why do you need to know that? So turn off the news. If you're going to read any news, make it the business news so that way you'll have more resources to help more people. Okay? So choose to be happy. Forgive yourself when you make a mistake. Now, if you want to watch a funny TED Talk, watch my TED Talk called The Critical Importance of Friendship on Your Happiness. I believe that friends are life's gold. Make as many friends as you can. Why? Because science shows that people with more friends are happier people. Also, you will have more resources as friends. The more people that are in your corner, the more people can help you out as life goes on. And also help out the people that you love, your children. Maybe they can help your children get a job. Maybe they can help you get a job. It happens every single day. So, during COVID, this is the time, I get hired a lot by companies all around the world. Mike, can you tell our employees who are very unmotivated right now, they're very down, how to find happiness during COVID? What I tell them is, right now, you've been given an amazing gift, the gift of self-reflection. You have been given a giant reset button where you have so much time to sit in your house because you can't go out in some places, right? And figure out what you want to do with the rest of your life. You see, Victoria, we are the authors of the stories of our lives. Why not make that story one of great legacy, one of great courage, one of somebody who took a chance. And even if they failed many, many times, like Thomas Edison, who failed 1,000 times to create a light bulb, made it, who came up with preposterous ideas like Colonel Sanders. Can you imagine this? Let's stop for a second. Good old Colonel Sanders was on Social Security, and he came up with the idea of walking into fully functional restaurants with a recipe in his pocket that if you'll give me a cut of your profits, I'll hand you this piece of paper. 1,000 people said, get the heck out of my store, I'm busy. And then one guy said, okay, I'll give it a shot. And now Yum Brands, which is a part, which KFC is a part of, is in, over 100 countries around the world with a preposterous idea of an old man. If he can do it, you can do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to look for the silver lining in
Yes.
everything. Every single, I mean, this is what everybody's been asking for. Hasn't everybody said that they'd like to take some time off, that they'd
Yes.
like to be able to spend a little bit more time at home? They wish that they had more time on their hands. Well, here it is. And, so it's like you said, the grass isn't always greener. You have to practice being present in the moment and appreciating what you have been given, this gift of time to like really get it figured out. And so I love that.
The other thing that people talk to me after speaking events, they say, Mike, I've got a mortgage, I've got bills, I've got kids, and I can't just run away from my job and run away from my responsibilities. Now, I'm not saying to do that, but what I am saying is to get a side hustle going, right? So, I have a wealth management practice that gives me amazing amounts of joy because every day I help people. But I also am talking to you right now with wisdom learned throughout my 54 years. I took time from my practice over the years to write those 5 books. And to meet amazing people and to get more clarity on how to live an amazing life from amazing people. Now, you can go to happinesshalloffame.com and see a list of some of the people I've inducted, but, I have been changed as a result of my quote unquote side hustle. So you can start out slow. There's a lot of folks right now that get panic attacks that have never, it just shows up. Here you are 50 years old, and now you've got a new problem in your life. And I tell them the story of Hale Irwin. Now, Hale Irwin's in the hall. Golf is a sport that's over 300 years old. So if you can imagine football being 300 years old, how many amazing players that we would have to recognize over a 300-year period. Hale Irwin, in some metrics, is regarded as the 25th best player of all time in the 300 years of golf's existence. Hale is in the hall, and when I inducted him, I said, Hale, you won the US Open 3 times. That's an amazing feat. You're the oldest person to win the US Open at 45 years old. I said, how did you win that? Win even one when all of the world is watching you? And he said, Mike, I love to tell the story. In 1972, when I won my first US Open, on the 17th hole, I realized that I had a shot to win this, that all of my dreams could come true if I could just keep it together. And as a result, my heart started pounding out of my chest. I had never felt this. I said, oh my gosh, I'm going to have a heart attack. I started looking on the sidelines where I can lay down to have my heart attack because I couldn't stand there anymore. I was going to be the first person to have a heart attack and collapse on the golf course. I physically couldn't move. And all of a sudden, a voice came into my head, and it was my father's voice. And he said, Hale, I told you throughout your whole life, if you start something, you have to finish something. Now you get in there and you finish it. And I said, okay, Dad. And I picked up my clubs and I moved to the next hole and I won. And all my dreams came true. But The reason why I tell this story to people is there may be times that out of nowhere, when you are this close to your dream, an obstacle that you couldn't foresee jumps in front of you. And what you have to understand is that you can overcome it.
Oh, I love that story so much. In a way, it kind of reminds me of, the 3 feet from gold
Yeah.
story in Think and Grow Rich. And
Oh,
I
I
mean,
love that book.
yes, yes. I mean, that's definitely another one of those key books to read for, that'll really make you feel happy and inspired and passionate and dream and get in touch with your desire. And that's so key though to our happiness is completion and
Yes.
finishing what you start. I think that is so important, especially, just even for your personal self-worth and personal sense of integrity, having a relationship with your word. I said I was going to do this and I'm going to do it. And I love that advice from the father that, just finish what you start. And so it's an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome. I told my wife that we will never say the D word to each other. It just won't come in, that it doesn't exist. I love my wife so much. She is my best friend. I told her, if you ever leave me, I'm coming with you. Okay?
Aw.
We are going to be, I told her I'll be very angry if at my funeral she's not there. So, be honest with the people that you love. Let them know exactly how much that you love them. Don't hold back. Don't say, well, if they know, throw it out there. Live life with abandon, but with love and with kindness and patience.
Well, this has been such a great opportunity to really get to know you and get to understand a little bit more about the keys to happiness. You wrote the book, you wrote several books about it. I want to talk about how people can take the next step and get a copy of your book or your books and what other ideas you'd like for people to walk away with as we wrap up today. So, to get a copy of your books, they can go to Amazon. Are these also sold in bookstores? The Happiness Book, the Happiness Book for Men, Happiness
Here's the
Book for
good news.
Kids.
If you're a Prime member on Amazon, you can download them for free.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So go to Amazon and download them for free. I can guarantee you that I put my heart and soul and all the wisdom that I've learned, from all of the people that I have met as a result of the Happiness Hall of Fame. You will benefit as a result.
I love it. Positive Guide to Happiness, the Happiness Book. Everybody on earth wants to be happy, whether you're aware of it or not. You do want to be happy. And some people succeed at being happy. Other people, meander through life, never achieving that happiness on a consistent basis. So this book is going to help you to develop that personalized happiness plan. And then you have it for men and you have it for kids. Now, why is there no happiness book for women?
You know what? So Dr. Sonia Lyubomirsky, who studies happiness, and she came up with the happiness scale from 1 to 7. She's in the hall. I consulted with her about that, and she's just like, you know what? The same happiness for men is the same happiness for women. So, just read my happiness book. That's my flagship book. It doesn't matter what gender you are.
I love it. I love it.
And
Yeah,
actually, to be honest with you, do you know why there's a happiness book for men?
I'd love to know.
Because surveys show that after high school, the average man reads one book for the rest of his life. If you go to the happiness book for men, it's a picture book because men don't read books. So it's pictures of bulldogs, and below it is one sentence on every page. So
Really?
I know men. So if you want a good coffee table book with hysterical pictures of bulldogs, that's it.
That is such a great idea. I love it. I love it. Yeah. So the happiness book for men helps the man by showing him the pictures
Yes,
that he needs to read,
we're
but
visual.
because you're visual.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, is there anything else that you'd like our audience to know before we close up our wonderful dialogue today? This has been, so enlightening and inspirational, and and I truly believe that happiness is the key to success in your life in any area. And so we go through this. For some people, life is short. For some people, life is long. But we go through this life and we might as well figure out how to go through this feeling as good and happy as we can possibly be. So this is a very, very important topic. And so I'm really glad that you were here today to share this important topic with our audience. And so any closing thoughts or words or ideas or calls to action that you'd like for our audience to take?
Absolutely. I would like everybody to plan for peace. Now, what does that mean? When you are in a state of peace, you are in a state of power. When you are in a state of aggravation or frustration, you have no power. You've ceded it. So how do you stay in peace? You need a plan for it. So if you are traveling, let's say, across the country and there's no nonstop, during COVID, there's a good chance that you're going to be, hours and hours on layovers and stuff like that. So you leave a day early. Whatever it is on your journey to self-realization, make sure that you plan for peace. Think of a few potholes that could show up along the way. And if they do, you've already prepared for them. And you have to understand on your journey to happiness and joy and success that there will be potholes that will be unforeseen. But you will know beforehand, you will say to yourself, I'm going to plan for peace. So when they show up, I'm going to stay in peace. So that's one of the best things, especially in today's uncertain times. I tell everybody to plan for peace. And that way you're planning for power.
Wonderful. Plan for peace. And that way you are planning for power. Thank you so much, Mike, for being on the Power of Your Mind podcast and enlightening our listeners with another way to take on the power in their life through peace and happiness leading to everything that you can possibly imagine that's good and positive and great for yourself. Thank you so much for listening to the Power of Your podcast, and thank you for being on the Power of Your Mind podcast.
Thank you very much, Victoria.